Hello, everyone, and welcome to Mapping Your Education. My name is Kwame Diko, and I am the Diversity Student Recruitment and Admissions Manager here at University of Toronto, Mississauga. I am so happy to see so many of you interested in post-secondary education and a university experience at University of Toronto, Mississauga. Tonight, we're going to have some wonderful presentations from some amazing guest speakers. Here is what you're going to learn about. So first, you're going to hear from me, and we're going to talk about navigating your student success. Then we're going to hear from the Institute for the Study of University Pedagogy, and we're going to learn about university writing expectations from Dr. Sarah Seeley and Laura Cesario. Then we're going to have a small break, and then we're going to come back and we're going to hear from Lauren, who's going to talk to us about university admissions and the University of Toronto. Then I'll be back for equity, diversity, and inclusion here at UTM. We'll have one more break, and then we're going to go over to Anita for a day in the life of a UTM student. We'll wrap up the night at 6:45, or starting around 6:45 for a Q&A, where we'll listen and talk to you and get to know all of you. If you're in the chat, please feel free to plug in where you're listening in from. We would love to say hello. But before we continue, I think you should meet some of my amazing guests and colleagues. So I'm going to bring them on the screen one by one, and we'll go through introductions. So first up, we're bringing on Lauren, then Laura, then Sarah, then Anita, and perfect. I think we're all here. So we're going to go through this one by one. As stated, my name is Kwame Diko, Manager Diversity Student Recruitment and Admissions. I'm a U of T alumni, currently on the tail end of my master's degree at U of T and staring down a PhD. Can't wait. So I will transition over to Felicia.
Hi, everyone. Welcome. I'm Felicia. I am the Student Recruitment Officer at UTM. I am not working on my PhD, but I do enjoy a lot of like crafting and exploring the campus in my free time, which you'll see a lot of this evening. And so I'm going to pass it over to Sarah.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sarah Seeley. I'm an assistant professor at ISUP, the Institute for the Study of University Pedagogy. And I teach writing. We'll pass it over to Laura.
Hello, everyone. My name is Laura, and I'm the Academic Advisor and Faculty Support Administrator at the Institute for the Study of University Pedagogy. That's quite a mouthful. I am a UTM alumni, and I'm also working on my Master's of Education. I'm going to now pass it off to Lauren.
Hey everybody, I'm Lauren. I am the Assistant Director of Admissions. I use she, her pronouns, and I too am a proud UTM alum. I've been on campus for more than half my life, so I'm proud to be representing UTM and answering some questions. And last but not least, we will pass it off to Anita.
Hi, my name is Anita. I'm currently a student at UTM. So not much to say, hopefully an alumni in the next few years, but you'll hear more about my experience and my job a bit later on. But I'll pass it back to Kwame.
Wonderful. Thank you, everyone, for coming on screen and introducing yourselves. As stated before, I will be your first presenter, so I will be saying goodbye, unfortunately, to the folks on the screen, but they'll be back. Don't worry. So, Lauren, talk to you later. Felicia, toodles. Laura, always nice seeing you. Sarah, you're my fave, don't tell anyone. And Anita, definitely one of my favorite students, don't tell anyone either. Thank you. See you soon. All right, so let's go to sharing the screen. Fantastic. And here we go. So let's talk a little bit about navigating student success. So first and foremost, we should do our land acknowledgement. So to begin, we would like to acknowledge the land on which the University of Toronto operates. For thousands of years, it has been the traditional land of the Huron-Wendat, the Seneca, and the Mississaugas of the Credit. Today, this meeting place is still home to many Indigenous people from across Turtle Island, and we are grateful to have the opportunity to work on this land. Okay, let's talk about role reversal. So a big hello to the parents listening in out there. But parents, it's important for you to know that you are now the passenger. So similarly to the changes in educational institutions, the roles between parents and their children will also change. Driver, Students, you are the driver. During your child's primary and secondary education, parents were in the driver's seats. As parents, you booked appointments, you paid for field trips, you organized their transportation, you made their lunch, you were in the lead. Once your child is in the process of transitioning to post-secondary, that will change. As mentioned previously, you will be a passenger. Let's dive a little bit deeper into what this means. This means that you now need to take on the passenger role, parents. You need to be there to provide your child with guidance, support, and reminders. Similar to a passenger in a car, you are going to be there to ensure that they have the right directions. For example, prerequisites. You will support them to find the directions on the map. So looking at university websites, speaking with guidance counselors, maybe even making a trip to university. And lastly, you will be there to remind them of vehicle maintenance. What we mean by this is deadlines, making sure to check your emails, checking on your application status, and calling our office to speak to kind people like myself, Lauren, Anita, Felicia, and all of our team members for questions you may have. And more specifically, let's talk about legal terms. The moment your child submits an application to a university or college, you are unable to speak on their behalf to the application body, aka the Ontario University's Application Center or the university or college. You might not even be able to speak to OSAP on behalf of your students. These bodies will not release any information to you regarding the applicant or the student. They are bonded and can only release information if your child completes a third-party release form. So students, you are in the driver's seat. You will need to go and get that information. You will need to provide information to your parents, and parents, you can help them by giving them reminders. And being a great guide and support of their university aspirations, it is important that you help them explore their options. Again, parents, we're talking to you. Be there for your children, support them, help them navigate. This will help them to make better and more informed choices. Let's transition to talking a little bit about high school, college, and university. There are some differences. As you can see from this slide, there are changes between each level of learning that your child will transition through, parents. High school builds on the foundations that your child learned in elementary and in middle school. It provides your child with some of the foundations needed to be successful at a post-secondary level. The high school is a very high touch and tight-knit community that is steeped and focused in guided learning. Let's talk a little bit about college. College is focused on skills and job training. These are institutions that give students more of the technical job skills, aka pharmacy technician, law clerk, paralegal, that they need to succeed in a role and as they transition to the professional world. They are larger than high schools, but smaller than universities. They encourage independent learning, but function very much in a cohort-specific model, meaning that most students that enroll in a specific program will meet the same colleagues throughout their classes in the coming years. Now, let's talk about university. University is the largest of 3 institutions and is a space for higher learning. Higher learning is where students begin to develop critical thinking and problem-solving skills. These are the largest institutions and require students to be self-directed, independent learners, meaning that students will need to take initiative when it comes to their studies and completing their degree. Of course, we're here to help though. An undergraduate degree is really the first step to professional programs of study. For example, we're talking engineering, medicine, or education. It provides students with the upward mobility and allows them to change their minds mid-career. The kind of flexibility and transferability that's associated with an undergraduate degree is not the same as a college diploma. Okay, let's transition to the University of Toronto. So, the University of Toronto is one university with 3 distinct campuses. All 3 U of T campuses offer the same high quality education with the resource that comes from being a part of Canada's premier university. Everything you need from academic support to student life, we have it all. The key point to remember is that when you graduate, no matter which campus you go to, you are earning a U of T degree. At this point, I'm often asked, how do I choose which campus to go to? Well, that's why we're here. We are going to tell you a little bit about our campus, but I do encourage you to look for the programs offered at each campus, as well as the learning environment for the community that you can imagine yourself in for the next 4 years. Environment matters. To help you make the right decision, I'm going to share a little bit about the Mississauga campus and why it has been a great fit for many students, and it might be a great fit for you. You may have heard me say one university, 3 distinct campuses. I only mentioned the Mississauga campus. Kwame, what are the other 2 campuses? Well, we have University of Toronto St. George, located downtown Toronto. We have University of Toronto Scarborough in the East End, and then we have University of Toronto Mississauga. So let's push on to learn a little bit more about University of Toronto Mississauga. So our Mississauga campus is located in Mississauga, Ontario, just 30 minutes to the west of Toronto. Our community is home to around 15,000 undergraduate students studying in the arts, sciences, and business. We have more students than some small towns. It is a thriving environment. As an applicant to UTM, you will choose, or maybe you've already chosen, between 12 different admission categories, which can lead you into over 180 different programs. These programs span across 18 different academic departments. What this means for you is that you have a wealth of options to choose from and choose between when you study at University of Toronto, Mississauga. Let's continue. So, you may have heard me say admission categories. What does that mean, Kwame? What's an admission category compared to a program? An admission category is sort of your first entry to the University of Toronto. Admission categories contain similar programs. We have 12 that you can choose from. You might have heard me say bachelor's degree. Well, we have Bachelor of Arts and Bachelor of Science. But you may have noticed when looking online that we've seen honors bachelor's degrees. So we have an honors Bachelor of Arts, honors Bachelor of Science, we have Bachelor of Commerce, and Bachelors of Business Administration. These typically take 4 years to complete. And while you're doing your degree, you will have a wealth of courses that you can choose from that are within your program, but also some courses you can choose for general interest, and also some courses you can choose to make you a well-rounded student. We also have second entry programs as well, aka nursing, medicine, and pharmacy. Second entry programs usually open for admission for students after their first year of study. So you would apply again to get into a second entry program. Okay, so undergraduate programs, why UTM? We have 180 programs across the arts, sciences, and business to choose from, including programs like communication, culture, and information technology, which takes media studies and information technology and smushes it together. So if you're interested in augmented reality, virtual assistants, AI generation, this is a great place for you to be. We have theater and drama studies. Did you know that we have our own stage that students can practice on? It is incredible. Furthermore, we have a podcast recording studio called the One Button Studio, where students can record themselves for courses within theater and drama studies. We also have forensic science. Forensic science is incredible. Did you know we have our own crime house in case you're interested in doing investigations? And all of the things that I've mentioned are unique to University of Toronto, Mississauga. Okay, so in terms of finding information, this one goes out to all the parents in the audience alongside the students. It's important that you should help your student do their research. You should listen to what your student wants to do. And you should be prepared for the student to change their mind as they grow. We are human after all. So when finding the information you need, reach out to guidance counselors, meet with them, ask for advice, visit university websites, do some school visits, visit UTM if you would like. I would love to give you a walking tour around campus. Go to the Ontario Universities Fair, where you can meet a number of different institutions under one roof. Go to campus days. We literally open our doors for students and families like you to come and explore. You can go to university fairs. These are curated events put on by specific universities, and look through our university view books. Read the language, look at the pictures, really, really, really put yourself out there, because there are universities that are just itching to meet you. And for UTM, we would love for you to come so we can say hi to you. So let's progress. So in building upon university resources, we have some resources here at UTM. So we have the University Undergraduate Admissions Bulletin, which will give you excellent information about admissions, getting into your admission categories, programs of study, the prerequisites, everything you need to make an informed decision. We have U of T Mississauga program plans. What does it look like for you to study from year 1 to year done? Wouldn't it be nice if you could map it out with your family at home? Well, guess what? You can do that. You could even call us and we'll map it out together. You have university program directories. Want to know if there's a researcher studying artificial intelligence implementation, or do you want to know if there's a researcher studying the use of augmented reality, and some of our favorite applications. Use the program's directory to find researchers that are doing that type of research and that type of work that interests you. But enough about resources. I could talk about it for hours. Let's talk about making the most of your experience. So academics are priority number one, but so much of your growth and development stems from engagement of what you would like to pursue while you're at UTM. Graduates who get involved on campus are more likely to find success sooner after graduation. The source for that is me and all of my colleagues, because some of my colleagues are actually UTM alumni doing amazing things. So my advice to you is quite simple: get involved, and get involved early. So when I say get involved, join a club or a society or a team. Attend on-campus events. When I say seize opportunities, what I mean is do an exchange program, do some research, maybe participate in a professional experience year, or do a work study position. And again, that word comes up: resources. Know your resources. You have the Academic Skills Center, the Career Center, the Health and Counseling Center. We have Student Affairs and Services. You have professors and TAs. You have academic and financial advisors, and you have me. But all of the people that I've mentioned so far are incredible and do incredible work. And by the way, you also have all the people on the call with us or on the webinar with us tonight. They are all incredible wealth of knowledge. Okay, so attending an event is one of the best ways to get to know U of T Mississauga, in case you haven't picked up on it by now. It's also a really good way to learn about any other university or college you're interested in. Go, attend the events, see what it's like to be a student there. Our events at UTM are hosted by members of our student recruitment and admissions team, who will give you an overview of the application process, admission requirements, student life, and more. Again, it comes up, we would love to talk to you, and we are open and willing and ready to teach you all about University of Toronto, Mississauga. So as we end off, I truly encourage you to discover UTM. Whether you're thinking about applying or whether you've already received an offer, it's super important that you engage with us so you can get to know what your years of study will look like. And my final slide is full of some amazing people. This is the Student Recruitment and Admissions Office. Connect with our team. Everyone is super friendly. As you can see, everyone is smiling. It may not look like it, but I am definitely smiling in the left corner. So reach out to us. We are happy to speak with you. Okay, so that comes to the end of my portion of the presentation. I am going to slowly take down my slide, and then we're going to transition. You might be wondering what comes next. Well, like I said, it's Professor Sarah Seeley. Again, awesome, awesome, awesome person. As I transition my slide down, hold on. I'm going to bring Sarah on screen, and voila, it's magic. Hi, Sarah, how are you?
Hi, Kwame. Thank you.
No problem. I'm going to transition out into the background. Have a wonderful presentation, Sarah.
Okay, thank you very much. Hi, everyone. So glad so many people were able to join us this evening. Building on much of what Kwame was just saying, I want to talk to you about opportunities related to learning university writing that are unique and specific to the UTM campus. So I wanted to start out with giving you a little bit of an opportunity to interact. I see that many people already commented in the chat, and I'm just going to give a minute or two to see what y'all have to say when I ask the question, what comes to mind when you think of writing? So go ahead and feel free to type in the chat anything that comes to mind: good, bad, indifferent, specific experiences, emotions, all the rest. Okay, we've got essays from Yan. Thank you. Okay, essays. Sense of indecisiveness. Okay, maybe not sure what to write about, perhaps. Creative writing, excellent. Books or poems, thank you, Potato. Any emotions anyone wants to share? We'll just give another minute or so to this. It's a nice opportunity to interact with one another. Oh, relief when you finally find the right word. That's excellent. Yes, the pursuit of the right word. A sense of freedom. Love that. I would say I feel a sense of empowerment from writing as well. It's kind of a power skill. Okay. A world of one's own. Thank you, Osan. Relaxing. Well, this is great to see. You guys have a lot of really positive associations with writing. Okay, so I'm gonna move forward just in the interest of time. But I've got the chat open so I can see more responses. I see Emmett's commenting on lab reports. So we've seen a lot of different types of writing come up between essays, lab reports, books, poems, more academic writing, more creative writing, a pretty good breadth here. So the reason I asked you to start is kind of twofold, because the class I'm going to talk with you about is very interactive. So in our own way, we're able to sort of mirror that experience with giving you the opportunity to add your voice to the conversation, even if it's just via the chat. But I wanted to also talk with you about the fact that writing is a non-linear process. Hopefully you can read that. I'm surprised my slide when it got squished down, the font's being weird. So sorry about that. But yes, this is our main headline. No matter what kind of writing, no matter what kind of emotions we have around it, we're thinking about writing as a non-linear process. I can see someone's just added self-expression. It's excellent. So what does it mean when we say that it's non-linear? So experienced writers are, first and foremost, they're spending most of their time creating and revising ideas. So what do I mean by that? Really, the act of writing is kind of bookended with a lot of work at the beginning where you're creating or inventing, brainstorming, building content to work with, and then spending a lot of time at the end revising those ideas. So I can't think who it was. N, you mentioned relief when you finally find the right word. So we would kind of place that at the end of the process, perhaps, right? Because sometimes it gets a little sticky if you get too caught up in having perfect words and perfect sentences at the beginning. In the middle, there's a lot of other things that go on, though, including involving other writers in the writing process. So a big idea in my field is that writers collaborate to get things done. So all of this involves thinking in terms of genre, what kind of a text you're creating. I was very heartened to see you guys are already thinking in those terms, as you mentioned, poems and books, essays, applications, lab reports, formal writing versus creative writing. So not only do we want to think about the kind of text that we're creating, we want to think about the audience. Who is it that we are creating the text for, right? Even though sometimes it can feel like it, especially in a lot of high school writing contexts, even though it might feel like you're just writing to the screen or writing to your notebook, really people use writing as a tool to make meaning in the world, right? And so that's connected to this last point about purpose, asking yourself, what are you trying to achieve with the act of communication that you're engaged in? So your purpose is, of course, these things are all linked together. The purpose isn't just over here, it's connected to the audience, which is connected to the genre. So we're also wanting to think about university writing as intellectual work. So what I mean by that is in writing at university, you're contributing to contemporary conversations and debates. You're not just writing to kind of empty feeling or sanitized prompts. Rather, you're given space and opportunity to add your voice to ongoing conversations that relate to the issues of our time. You're able to be doing independent research that feels meaningful to you. This is what, when Kwame was talking about the distinctions between high school and college and university learning, this is the self-directedness, the thinking deeply that comes with being a university student. Also connected to that, thinking about being the driver of your own car and no longer the passenger. Writing as intellectual work at university involves managing time purposefully, I mentioned that nonlinear kind of approach to writing in order to have time to create ideas and then draft text and then revise text, work with others, consider the genre, consider the audience and the purpose. You need to carve out enough time to do that, not just writing a single draft and submitting it as is. And then finally, becoming part of a disciplinary community. This is probably, I think, one of the most exciting parts of university, when you start to feel like you're becoming an expert in the field that you want to join. And writing is a tool that's going to be there across any of the disciplinary communities that you're wanting to become a member of. When I talked about genre, the types of texts that you would produce would be different if you're attempting to join a biology disciplinary community versus, you know, English and drama versus physics versus sociology, right? So understanding that the audiences for each of those communities is very different. The kinds of texts they produce, the ways they use language is all going to be different. So this is part of that kind of intellectual work, is recognizing all these shades of context. So I'd mentioned at the top that I was going to talk with you about a particular class. And so this slide is the beginning of that section of my presentation. So we're going to think a little bit about ISP 100, which is a course that's called Writing for University and Beyond. So in addition to a lot of the other resources and links and so on and so forth that Kwame was talking about, I want to note that this class is innovative. It's the first of its kind in Canada, and it's a unique opportunity that's only available at the UTM campus. So not at St. George, not at Scarborough. So Writing for University and Beyond is what we might call a first-year writing class that's introducing students to contemporary issues and debates related to writing and communication. So the class is capped at 25 students in each section. And really our main kind of headline is that the course is grounded in research on transferable writing skills, meaning that you learn various different skills, techniques, concepts, and you're sort of building a toolkit that you can then later adapt as you respond to new writing situations across those disciplinary communities that you'll participate in as a part of being a university student. So it's always important to learn how to analyze new writing situations, because we know, not all kinds of texts, not all contexts are the same. So being an open-minded learner and having these tools can be very useful and certainly helpful for your success. Another piece of this class asks students to develop what we call a personal portable theory of writing, meaning that you identify the concepts and the skills, the techniques, and the emotional dispositions that you need to account for in order to create the best circumstances for you to succeed as a writer. And the idea is, not only is it personal, it's portable, meaning that you're going to take it with you to your other classes across your degree program and revise it as you learn more and become a more integrated member in your disciplinary community. So this is my final slide. This is the thing that I really like to end on when I talk about ISP 100, is the community building capabilities of the course. So it's a small discussion-based course, right? Like I mentioned, trying to kind of mirror that with asking you to contribute in the chat. This will be the only course really that most first-year students take that's small like this. All other first-year courses are very large lecture courses where you're sort of just faceless. And in some sense, I suppose, if you don't feel like getting out of bed to go to class one day, the fact that you're not noticed or missed by your prof might be considered a good thing. But on the flip side of that, in a context where, like this one, where you would be missed, you get to form relationships. You get to make connections with your peers. The idea of friend making is really big when we think about students' happiness at university. A lot of research shows that students who are quite successful and move through their degree program on time have made at least one friend in their first year. Classes like this can be helpful in that regard. It helps build relationships with faculty, meaning that you have people who know you as a person, who, you know, say hi to you and remember your work across your years at university, who you might take other classes with, request letters of reference from, all of that kind of thing. But most importantly, a class like this allows you to leave with a sense of empowerment, that you feel like a much more effective communicator, because no matter where you go, no matter what you do, you are going to need to speak and write in order to succeed. So Billy Bop in the comments, all caps. It's a little negative. But anyway, I'm going to end on a positive, and yay empowerment, yay community building. And I'm going to invite Kwame to come back and take the reins.
There we go. I'm back now. Thank you so much, sir, for the awesome presentation. I've had the pleasure of sitting in on one of, I believe it was a lecture, and I learned quite a bit. So very much encourage all new students to attend the class if possible, or just say hi to Sarah and Laura for that matter, if you have the time on campus. Thank you, Sarah. So I'm gonna say goodbye, and I'm going to bring in a special guest, someone who worked within our office, all around awesome. Everyone meet Megan. Hi, Megan. I believe you might be muted.
I believe I am. Hello, Kwame. Thank you. Hello, everyone. Really happy to be here. I'm in the back over here checking out the chat and answering any questions you might have. So get those questions in. I'm here for you.
Perfect. Thank you so much for coming on to say hi, Megan. I'm going to bring you backstage with the rest of the friends, and I'm going to start a short break for everyone that's out there in YouTube land. So give us one moment and we'll start the video, and I will see you on the other side with Lauren, who will talk to us about admissions. See you soon, everyone.
My best advice to incoming students is to be open and to stay open. The students I love are the ones I meet in, before they've made a decision even, and they'll meet me in sort of a fair, university fair, or on a visit to the campus, and I'll say, what are you interested in? And they'll say, no. They have no idea, and they're so scared to admit that they're not sure what they want to do. And then I'll meet some that will give me an answer. And then I can see that that's literally the thing that they've been saying over and over. And so the advice is, here you had the opportunity I didn't have, that I fought for, which is a place where you can take a different direction. You can come in thinking you want to do one thing, and it's not impossible in that first year to just experiment, open up, see what other things you can do. We encourage that. Were you always interested in philosophy? Take a class in philosophy and see if you like that, right? What about a language? You really wanted to understand a bit more about Indigenous language and culture? Take a class. We're not committing to that, but what you're doing is remaining open to the idea that this could be something that I love. And you can mix it up here. It's so much easier. You don't have to fight. You can say, I want to do this weird thing and that weird thing, and it can come together. From the beginning of a class to the end of a class, if I can have students see in themselves and reflect, I grew so much. That's what I'm interested in. What did you learn about you? What did you learn about your capacity and your ability? For me to send them out of the university with that kind of confidence and the ability to understand they may not have met something, a new app, a new technology, it doesn't matter. They know they can face it, and they've dealt with it before, and they will deal with it again, and they will succeed.
Hi, Lauren. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I am better now that I've seen you, so I'm adding your presentation to the stage, and I am going to go backstage with the friends and have a wonderful presentation.
Thank you. And thank you, everyone. I'm not going to be able to see the chat while I'm presenting, so I will try and check back in a couple of times, but hoping to answer questions at the end in the formal Q&A section, so hold on to those. And my lovely colleagues will also be answering some questions in the chat, as well as starring some to keep for that end of the kind of event Q&A. So if you don't have your question answered in the chat, don't worry. We will get to that, and we'll share some contact information as well if you need to get in touch with us. So as I mentioned, my name is Lauren. I am the Assistant Director of Admissions. I have been at UTM for quite some time and absolutely love it to this day. Still step out. I was there today on campus and it was beautiful and sunny, and I got to walk through some of the buildings that I had classes in, obviously to where we work. And to this day, it's still one of my favorite places to be. I am here to talk to you about kind of the process of applying to university. And it is similar as applying to any post-secondary, be it university or college. Some things to keep in mind, how to plan ahead, that application process, more specifically as it pertains to us at UTM. Budgeting and finances and some resources that you can look at, because post-secondary can be a big financial, piece that you're taking on. Don't want to say a burden, because it's definitely worth it, but it is, a big investment that you're putting into your education. So there's lots of resources to help you with that. So we don't want that to be a deterrent for you. U of T actually gives out a lot of money for students to be able to attend our institution. So we'll share a little bit of those details as well. And then, like I said, we'll keep the questions to the end. So planning ahead, it's going to sound a little bit cheesy or corny, but it really is part of the journey, and reflective thinking, and something that you will go into university doing a little bit of, but through your university studies, you'll do a lot of critical thinking and reflective thinking and thinking on that personal journey. And so we do, as Kwame mentioned, want you to be looking at things that excite you, that you are passionate about, and not so much so tied singularly to a particular career. Of course, there are career paths out there where you do have to, obtain an undergraduate degree and potentially a professional degree, potentially a master's or a PhD, a doctor, a lawyer, an architect, those kinds of things. But there's so many careers out there in the world that have very non-linear, if we want to take that from Sarah's presentation, paths. And there's also careers that they don't even exist yet. So I always say, try and ask yourself a couple of questions. What problems do you want to solve in the world? We have, a very interesting world right now, a lot of complex conversations happening. So what are those things that you are really interested in solving? What do you want to learn about? And what subjects are you strong in? When I always think back to, my first year, I called my dad halfway through the year, and it was a day before an exam, big exam for a course that I wasn't too fond of. And, I didn't really know what to do, what I had intended wasn't working out. It wasn't where my strengths were. And I said, I didn't really know what I wanted to be when I grew up. And he looked at me and he said, Lauren, well, he didn't look at me, he was on the phone. And he said, Lauren, I'm 60 and I don't know what I want to be when I grow up. And I was like, oh, okay, well, what do I do then? And he said, study what you're good at and study what you love. And so I did. And I ended up pursuing and completing an honors Bachelor of Science degree with a double major in anthropology and psychology and a minor in Italian. Which leads me to my second and third points of combining subjects, and it's not set in stone. So I actually changed my programs from year 1 to year 2, and in year 3, I kind of switched things around. And so you may have an idea of what you want to come into the university with, but you might find a secondary passion, or that might not work out, but that's okay, because something else is going to come along that you've never thought of, and it's absolutely going to blow your mind. In my last year of university at UTM, I was actually taking a psychology of language course. So I was learning about how folks actually cognitively learn languages. I was taking an anthropology of language course, so I got to see how culturally we learn language, and then I was learning a language myself. So those three seemingly very different subject areas came together, and I did that because that's what I was interested in. That's where my passion was. So definitely something to consider, not as, like I said, singularly tied to the career. As Kwame mentioned, we do have 12 admission categories with over 180 programs to choose from. So we have programs within the chemical and physical sciences, commerce, communication, culture, information and technology, which is a mouthful. So we do call it CCIT. Computer science, mathematics, and statistics are kind of grouped together. Forensic science, humanities, life sciences, management, psychology, social science, theater and drama, and visual studies. So a lot of different areas to choose from. And as I mentioned, you do have the opportunity to combine programs from different areas of study to really make your degree your own. And so you can do that, after your first year. There's lots of different opportunities to apply into the university, and we will talk a little bit about how that is structured when we talk about the application. So I wanted to share a little bit about kind of the advice that I give students, and thinking back on my experience choosing an institution and even choosing what schools to apply to, let alone the one that I finally landed on. And, we talk a little bit about what Kwame was mentioning at the beginning, doing the research, finding out what the requirements are, and really getting that campus vibe feel. So we are going to talk a little bit about that. So your program selection does tend to be kind of first and foremost, because you're not going to look at an institution unless it has the program that you're most interested in, or a couple of those programs. The nice thing is there are many programs that are offered at a lot of different universities and colleges. So you might want to look at English. And so English is a pretty popular program to be offering. And so then that narrows your applications just slightly. Whereas if you're looking, let's say, at engineering, it's not as popular for different, it's not offered at as many institutions. Forensic science is quite specialized. So that might streamline kind of the universities you start looking at. The location is another thing to consider. Do you want to be closer to home? Are you looking to kind of get out of the nest and go and travel and be a little bit away from home and learn how to live on your own and have that experience? Do you want to be closer to home, but maybe within commuting distance? And so those things you can actually choose and look at as well. For those of you, I know there was a few of you who were in the Oakville, Mississauga, GTHA area. You do have some really great opportunities just within the GTHA. There's a lot of institutions and even a lot of U of T campuses to choose from. Are you looking for a big university, mid-sized, or a small, intimate institution? So that is definitely something I thought of. I grew up actually in Ottawa, in our nation's capital, and I knew that going away from home wouldn't be something that was too daunting for me. But going away from home, I grew up in a small town actually just south of Ottawa, and there was 7,000 people in my school. 7,000 people in my town, and my high school was beside Cows. So I didn't really feel comfortable going out into the big city, but coming to UTM was the perfect mix for me. It was a great opportunity to come into a larger city, but also have access to downtown Toronto to be able to kind of, at my convenience or when my comfort zone allowed me to go and kind of test those boundaries. The vibe. We always get asked about the vibe at UTM. So you do definitely want to check that vibe out. As Kwame mentioned, if you can come onto campus, that definitely was my selling point. So coming to our fall campus day or our March open house, which is coming up, and being able to visualize yourself in classes or on campus walking between the different buildings, and you'll be able to catch that sense of, the vibe. Is it busy? Is it really urban? Is it a little bit more chill and artsy and laid back? So whatever speaks to you. Finances, definitely have to consider that. Obviously, living away from home is going to cost a little bit more than, commuting and or living at home, and depending on how close you are to the institution. We have some students who are able to actually walk to campus, so that piece is also an important thing to think about. And I put friends here with a little upside down face because we love them. We love our friends and we want them to do all these amazing things, and we want to cheer them on and be there with them while they do that. But everybody's different. Everybody's interested in different things, and you'll make friends wherever you go. I was the only student from my high school who came to U of T Mississauga, and I still have friends from back home, and I connect with them regularly. But I have a wonderful group of friends that are like family that I met in university, and so I do encourage you to definitely cheer those friends on. But if you have a different end goal in mind, that you keep that goal really close to your heart and you work towards it, because just like a boyfriend or a girlfriend, we don't want to be making decisions for other people. You want to make those decisions for yourself. Choosing secondary courses. So this is more practical. We've talked a little about the heart. Now we're talking a little bit more about the practical planning pieces that you're going to need. So prerequisites do matter, and those can start to kind of develop in grade 9 and 10, because you can't take grade 11 biology without having grade 10 science, and you can't take grade 12 biology without having grade 11 biology. So you do have to be aware of that starting now. So if you want to keep your doors open in the maths and sciences, you can ensure that you are on track to get those biologies or chemistries or functions and calculuses. If you know that that's not something you're interested in, you can let those go. And just being aware of what those prerequisites are. I will say the tricky thing is that different institutions will have different requirements. It's because we teach our first year courses somewhat similarly, but with the understanding that you may have XYZ as preparation. So the Ontario University Application Centre, their OU Info website is fabulous for being able to kind of map out different programs and different requirements quite easily. But you can also speak to your counselors to be able to map that out in your classes. The other thing we get a lot of questions about are more academic rigorous programs in high school, and those are fabulous as well. If you have a school or a program that allows you to do IB or AP courses, and you're doing well in those, that's amazing. We do find students who have experience in some of those more rigorous academic programs in high school see a little bit less of a dip when they come into the university. However, I will say that there's no preference to students given for admission purposes. Especially if you're in Ontario high school curriculum, we actually don't see those. They get transferred or converted into percentages and then sent to us. So there isn't kind of an admission benefit to it. That being said, we do award transfer credit for some of those AP and IB courses. So you could get advanced standing for, I think, biology and potentially chemistry, if you, in some English courses, if you were to successfully complete higher level IB courses, for example. So somebody in the chat had asked about minimum grades to get in. So I did mention that we'd cover that in this section. So typically, and I would say historically, UTM's looking, specifically UTM, is looking at a minimum overall average of at least 75 with your grade 12 English course, the grade in that grade 12 English being a minimum of 70%. We also have a requirement of many of our prerequisite courses to be at a minimum of 70%. We set this because 2 reasons. We see a lot of students, in that's kind of the benchmark for progression and success in those particular areas at the university. And then also because of that, we have determined that these are the minimum criteria for course enrollment for some first year classes, and they are actually stated in our academic calendar. So we want to make sure, obviously, that we're admitting you with the requirements so that you can take the courses that you need for the program that you're applying to. There are some programs that require stronger grades in maybe their prerequisites or their overall average. One I'm thinking of is the computer science, math and stats admission category. Typically, commerce, life sciences, and management also have slightly higher or more competitive averages. And we're seeing kind of a resurgence in forensic science, especially just in that first year of students, having and needing to have slightly stronger grades in those areas. We've put up a couple of examples here on what the prerequisites would be. So for example, commerce, we'd be specifically looking at English, advanced functions, and then calculus, and then 3 of your other grade 12 URM courses. Whereas life sciences, we'll look at English, bio, chem, functions, and then 2 of your other grade 12 URM courses. And psychology, we do actually require that you have English, functions, and bio. That's the one exception, is that we're not looking at that 70% for the bio and the functions, but successful completion of those areas, because you won't actually come in the psychology major and take biology or calculus, but you are going to have to do a statistics course, because psychology, you're going to be looking at case studies, and that is stats and probabilities. And you are going to be learning in psychology at UTM about the biological basis of psychology, as well as the social bases of psychology. I studied psychology, and a lot of folks ask, why not just in arts? From my personal experience, you can't not look at the science, because you're then negating an entire side of the study of psychology. So I think we do at U of T, it's a science, and I think we do a really great job with that. I just have a couple more slides. So some additional considerations for you when you are applying to university are supplemental applications. So some programs may require that you submit a profile or a portfolio or do an interview. For us at U of T Mississauga, our only program that has a supplemental is our theater and drama program, where we have you do an audition to come into that program. And so there are, something to be planning for, and we do get questions. We're going to talk about the timeline in a little bit. There is a recommended date to apply to the University of Toronto. It's usually in early November. It's not a deadline, but we recommend that students apply early, because that's when you get access to some of those supplemental requirements. And so you just have a little bit more time to prepare for those. So highly recommend, if you can apply early, then that's great. But there is a common deadline in Ontario for Ontario high school students. And then for those of you joining from outside of Ontario, that common application deadline is typically the same for everyone initially, and then it extends if we have space. So everyone applies through the Ontario University Application Centre. If you're applying to one or more universities within Ontario, you get 3 choices for a flat fee. And you can apply to as many choices as you like, but for each additional choice on top of those 3, it would be $50 per additional choice. There was one rule around applying to the University of Toronto, and that is that you can apply to 1 program per campus or faculty. So Another U of T presentation, probably in your grade 12 year, will explain the whole structure of faculties and divisions and campuses at the University of Toronto. But we do have a requirement that you're applying to one for consideration. But remember, I did 3, you can do 3 as well. So you can study up to 3 programs. So our application timeline, we are looking at applications starting in November typically. So the applications open late September on OUAC. October, we do our fall open houses, and we have the Ontario Universities Fair. I believe that's October 4th and 5th, maybe 5th and 6th this year in 2024. November is our recommended application date, as I had mentioned at U of T, and January is typically the common application date. This past year it was January 15th, but we have at UTM decided to extend some of our applications, and that can happen each year. We just don't want you to bank on that just in case we don't. So it depends on the application and the pool. Application numbers and the pool that we are getting. And February is typically when we start looking at applications at the University of Toronto. We did have a mini kind of first round in January this year, but February, we have your grade 11s, so they do count. They come to us kind of as soon as you apply, or any completed grade 12s, so we can see them. If they're not strong enough, then we simply hold on to your application to see more grade 12 results come in. Typically in February, we get your first semester finals from grade 12. And then in May is when we get second semester midterms. In between that, we have a deadline for housing. So all first year students coming directly from high school are guaranteed residence at the University of Toronto. There's just a couple steps that you have to do. So you have to apply by the deadline and then complete your interest application by March 31st, and then pay a deposit in June. And then you can hang out with all of your offers from all your different universities. And if you are in Ontario, high school, you don't have to make a decision until June. If you are outside of Ontario, you'll have a May 1 deadline. Again, sometimes those get extended. So definitely reach out if you have any questions or concerns. So this is the application process, things to remember, things to watch out for as you begin this process, maybe next year or the following year. Deadlines are crucial. Usually a deadline is a deadline, like I had mentioned. Sometimes we extend them, but in the event that we don't and you've missed that, we don't want you to be in that circumstance. So definitely keep on top of those dates. You could create, Excel spreadsheet. You could put it in your Outlook, in your email. You could use, there's lots of apps to keep track of those types of things. So definitely keep track of those particular dates. So when the application's due, when any supplementals are due, additional documents, like English proficiency. So if English is not your first language, you may be required to provide English proficiency results. So make sure that you're aware of when those are. And then, of course, accepting your offer of admission. It's important to be aware of those, especially if any changes need to be made to your application. Communications, all of us at the universities and the colleges and everywhere like to communicate to you via email. So you are going to receive a lot of them. In fact, you'll receive probably an email after tonight's event to say thank you for attending, give us any feedback, and any events that you attend with us. So we do definitely appreciate you going through and reading those, but they are very important for you because you will get updates to your applications via emails. You may be a bit overwhelmed, and I completely understand that, but you can make it a habit of definitely checking in maybe once a day, once a week or so on some of those deadlines, those emails, to make sure that you're on top of that. Many universities also have an online website or a portal that you would gain access to. So you should make it a habit of checking in on those, because the emails typically are triggered by an update to that online portal or website. So, one or the other or both is a really great idea. And then the last thing, really through the application process, especially because we're talking, grade 9, 10, 11, you're not yet finished high school, and that is always going to be a condition of your offer of admission. So if you have an offer of admission to U of T, to any university, and you're still in grade 12, which is very typical, you'd be applying in your last year, that offer is going to be conditional on the fact that you finish your studies, that you maintain your average, that you do well, and that you graduate from high school and achieve your diploma. So you do need to make sure that you're looking at the terms and conditions of your offer of admission. It is basically a legally binding document that we're going to send you. So definitely read through those. Parents, you can read those through those and establish kind of a way to keep on top of it with your student. I mentioned the portals on the website. So we have a Join U of T applicant website that is open for all U of T applicants. So if you do choose to apply to U of T and you apply to more than one of our campuses, divisions, faculties, everything will be housed for you in one Join website. So your application to say U of T Mississauga, U of T Scarborough, and the U of T St. George campus, say Faculty of Arts and Science, all of that would be in one website for you. We try to kind of combine efforts to make it as clear as possible for applicants. The last thing I wanted to talk to you about today, and I know that we're quite early on time, so I will leave it to Kwame whether we want to take questions after or leave that to the end, but is budgeting and financing. As I mentioned, university is quite the undertaking. It is a very amazing investment. I highly encourage you to consider it for sure. We have found that simply stating certain pieces of tuition or incidentals or books or whatnot really isn't helpful because it doesn't align to everybody's experience, right? So we actually, the University of Toronto recently created this amazing budget and financial planning calculator. You can go to this planningcalc.utoronto.ca and put in all of your information. So you put in your study 1, that you're at UTM, that you're studying biology, that you're going to be living on campus, XYZ, all of these things, and it will help you determine what that cost analysis looks like and maybe how to budget some of those things. So highly encourage you to check that out. Even now it's a public document that you can look at, and we'll make sure that that's put into the chat for you to peek at. And then, as I mentioned, there is a lot of support. So the University of Toronto has an incredible amount of scholarships and awards for both domestic and international students. There's some that are automatically assessed based on merit alone, like our guaranteed entrance scholarships for all of our students. We have an International Scholars Award that provides up to $180,000 over 4 years for students who are studying at the university on a study permit. There are lots of national scholarships and the President's scholarships that's determined centrally by our team at the University Admissions and Outreach Office. So a couple of full tuition and residence programs, or $10,000 or $7,500 towards your studies at UTM. And the really big one that I want to point out, because it's one of the first, if not the first in Canada like this, and there are a couple of Ontario institutions that I know who've kind of picked up and supported their students in a similar way, is UTAPS. So UTAPS is the University of Toronto Advanced Planning for Students. It's our guarantee that if you are unable to start or finish your studies due to lack of financial resources, that we'll step in. Now, there are some caveats. You do have to apply to your provincial funding and be eligible for that, because that's the expectation if you are in financial need, that you're going to kind of OSAP, which would be the Ontario Student Assistance Program, or your provincial funding, or if in the US, this FAFSA funding. And so if you're eligible for that, but that's not quite meeting where you need, there are some programs that are a bit more expensive, then the University of Toronto will actually step in and award you a grant for the rest, because we want to see successful students studying here, and we don't want that financial piece to be disruptive to their education. Similarly, new this fall, I think, was it this fall? Yes, last fall, this fall, the Indigenous Tuition Initiative. So for 9 specific bands, if you are a member of one of those communities, we do have a tuition waiver for Indigenous students. And so that's coming into effect as we speak, and something really that we're very proud of at the University of Toronto to offer to our Indigenous communities and partners. That is it for me. There's a different picture of the student recruitment and admissions team front and center with me and my big curly hair. And so we definitely encourage you to reach out, connect with us, ask questions, and then I will bring Kwame back up onto the stage to see if we want to take some questions now, just considering we're ahead of time, or not. Totally up to you.
No, totally. I think there are 2 questions that we would love your expertise with, Lauren. First, it's about competitive averages, namely to a specific program, forensic science. But overall, I was wondering, what would you say a competitive average is? How would you define that?
So it depends on the program. Definitely, you will see a lot of it depends when you have conversations with institutions. And it does depend on the pool of applicants as well, year to year. So there are some programs. I know when I'm at the Ontario Universities Fair, this is going to be a long-winded answer, but I promise I have a specific answer at the end. We have a lot of students who ask, because we put in our view book for, say, humanities and social sciences, it's a mid to high 70s, and things like life sciences or computer science, math and stats is a low to mid 80s, or a mid 80s to high low 90s, or whatever it is. I have a lot of students, or applicants, I should say, and families ask, why is English or social sciences so low in comparison to XYZ institution, or also in comparison to the other programs that you offer. And if you think about it, I know many of you are probably in after Sarah's presentation as well. If you think about it, writing is very subjective. And so it's rare for students to receive, 100% in an English course, or, a writing intensive course, or a theory based course when it comes to like philosophy or things like that, because there's not really a right and a wrong, and you're not necessarily needing to have those 100% to be really successful in those areas of study. That being said, in things like science and math, you might get part marks for things, but at the end of the day, the answer is typically right or it's wrong, unless you've discovered an entirely new process for doing, something in math, right? And you're the next Einstein. So getting those stronger grades isn't easier, I'm going to say, myself included. Chemistry and calculus, not my friends, but getting those stronger grades, if they are something that you're good at and that you are passionate about, is a lot easier. And truth be told, if I have a doctor in my corner, I would much rather them have very strong grades in the sciences than not. So all that to say, competitive average typically, as I mentioned, for life sciences, I think we put that in there for like a low to mid 80s. And that's just kind of like historically where that benchmark has been for new admits. Computer science, I saw somebody asking a competitive average for computer science. That benchmark, we started in the 90s. Sometimes it goes into the high 80s. Sometimes it doesn't. It depends on the pool of applicants. To be successful, I think, the stronger your grades are, the better in those cases. And I will say in our view books, we tend to put that kind of like minimum requirement that you're aiming for. But there are students who have, like, even this year, I've seen students who have 99s across the board or 100 and this or that, the other. So it's hard to say year on year, but definitely take a peek at our view books, because we do post those kind of minimum benchmarks that we've seen the last couple of years in there.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Lauren. And for those of you that are asking more competitive average questions, we will cover that during our live Q&A session. And for folks that will maybe be joining us late, we'll also go over it one more time for you as well. I have one more question, Lauren, for you, if that's okay. If you could go back in time to higher ed, the student, Lauren, what advice would you give yourself?
Oh, that's hard. You're putting me on the spot. I don't know. If I think about it now, if I could go back in time, I would love to study more languages, but I wouldn't be where I am had I not done exactly what I did. So I am very much appreciative of my family. I was very privileged in that they were supportive of me going away and studying what I was interested in, though they did still try and get me to write my chemistry exam when I hadn't studied for it, because I knew that I wasn't going to continue. Got a 21. But anyways, I think that the advice that I was given to study what I was good at and to study what I loved and to participate and, talk to different people, I think it's a true testament to where I am today. I think I could have definitely benefited from more support or taking advantage, because it wasn't for lack of there being support, but taking advantage of the support systems in our Robert Gillespie Academic Skills Center. ISEP was definitely not a thing when I was a student at UTM. So had it been, I think I would have benefited a lot from those writing intensive workshops and really kind of dissecting those pieces. And there's no shame in asking questions, not knowing the answer, someone saying no. It just means you need to be a little bit more creative in getting to where you want to be. So I think that's my advice.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Lauren. And thank you. And I also want to say thank you on behalf of everyone out there again in YouTube land, because I'm sure your insights definitely helped them. So I'm going to send you backstage with the friends. And everyone say bye to Lauren. Bye, Lauren. All right. All right. There Lauren goes. And I'm front row center again. So before our next session, we have another video for you all. So we are going to share a little bit about our student services video. When we come back, you're going to hear from me again, and we're going to talk about equity, diversity, and inclusion at UTM. So bye for now, but we'll be back in a couple minutes. Hi, my name is Kwame.
And I'm Hiji.
We want to introduce you to just a few of the services on campus here to help you succeed.
Starting with, the Center for Student Engagement is your connection to mentorship opportunities, volunteer experiences, and student clubs. Before you even arrive on campus, you will have the opportunity to connect with other new students through Eagle Connect, our pre-arrival transition program. And once you're here, all extracurricular activities are captured on an official university document called the Co-Curricular Record. It's like a transcript, but everything that isn't academic.
The Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Office works to maintain an equitable and inclusive campus community by providing equity and human rights-related programs and services for all UTM community members. As an example, the Positive Space campaign at U of T aims to create and identify safer and more inclusive spaces for 2S LGBTQ+ students and employees.
Not sure what to do after you graduate? The UTM Career Center, one of the top 5 in Canada, offers you several ways to explore career options, like meeting a career counselor, speaking to employers at career fairs, and finding jobs on and off campus. The Career Center can also review your resume and cover letter before you apply for a job, help you land it with a practice interview, and even take a professional photo of you when you need to update your LinkedIn profile.
The Experiential Education Unit can connect you with internships, field courses, research opportunities, and many other ways that allow you to learn by doing. Bursaries are available to students with financial need, helping to make experiential learning opportunities accessible to all students.
See the world while you're completing your degree with the International Education Center. Participate in UTM Abroad during your study break and travel with your classmates and faculty. Or spend up to one full academic year abroad with an outbound exchange program. If you're an international student watching this, the IEC can help you apply for study permit, work permit, and help you navigate any confusion regarding studying and working in Canada.
Accessibility Services provides services and academic accommodations for students who have a documented learning, physical, sensory, mental health disability, or medical condition. Accessibility Services also offers students the opportunity to build academic skills and make friends through events and workshops offered by the Peer Mentor Learning Community Program.
The Institute for the Study of University Pedagogy, we just say ISUP, offers courses that focus on developing university-level academic skills and learning strategies for any students in any discipline. These foundational courses focus on skills like writing, numeracy, research, and communication. All of our courses are student-centered, interdisciplinary, and they offer a collaborative classroom experience.
Get moving at The Rock, our state-of-the-art recreation, athletics, and wellness center, where you can participate in a variety of fitness, recreation, and sports programs. Learn a new sport, try a fitness class, or dive into pool activities. Our programs are available year-round, and many are even online. Whew, that was a lot to cover.
And we've only scratched the surface. U of T Mississauga isn't just a place to learn, it's a place to make friends, learn more about yourself, and even experience the world.
To learn more about any of the services we mentioned, visit the Student Services website. We'll see you on campus.
Bye!
Okay, hello again. So I'm up next, but just before I start my presentation, I do want to give a special shout out to Lauren. I've had the pleasure of working with the admissions team for a little while now, and I must say the work that they're doing is incredible. And outside of communicating policy, standards, and guidelines that will help you during your application, Lauren and the admissions team also provide a lot of great advice and great insight into what it's like being a student at UTM and how you can prepare. So again, I know I'm a broken record. I've said it 1,000 times already, but please call our office. Please reach out and talk to us. Please come for a visit. We have an awesome sort of waiting area where you can hang out and talk to myself or Lauren or Felicia or Megan for that matter. So let's get started with my presentation as we swap over now. So welcome everyone. I am not going to do another introduction because you've heard from me before, but the focus of today's session is to talk to you about how we center students in our EDI programming. We've been listening, so I'll briefly highlight some of the student conversations that have guided our work in regards to equity, diversity, and inclusion. By the end of the session, you'll be made aware of how your voices shape our work within this realm as it pertains to access and outreach. So let's begin. Mapping our time. So if you've been to my presentations or any one of my presentations, and if you're going to come to one in the future, you know that I love icons and I love maps. So first, we're going to do an overview of why we are focusing on this now. Then we're going to orient our approach to implementing programming. We're going to talk about student perspectives. We'll talk about the programming, and then we are going to look towards the future to what we have planned. So why specific supports? Why now? It has become increasingly clear that a large growing demographic of learners historically underserved by traditional higher education are disproportionately affected right now and have been in the past. Most institutions intentionally admit, sort, and guide learners in large cohorts, but the personalization that learners often need to thrive is frequently lost in the process. It is critical that we become more agile and develop greater empathy during these processes. These are crucial skill sets that academia needs if we're to listen to our learners and partner with them to co-create their journeys in their education and in their careers. When it comes to recruitment and admissions, the University of Toronto Mississauga is committed to ensuring that students from communities that are underrepresented in higher education are well positioned to engage, access, and thrive within their studies at UTM. So I mentioned that I love icons, so let's talk a little bit about our approach to this type of change. Here you have a set of icons that describe the traditional approach to change. otherwise known as observing, planning, and implementing student supports. When it comes to observation, so that first square, usually it's an individual or a group of individuals that look at another group in which they would like to engage to start change. And then the middle section, the light bulb, is the idea moment, the aha. The individual or group then formulates an idea, and then the last square is implementation. A list is made, directives, checkboxes, task groups, task forces, you name it. We are going to bring people together to do something. Surely this is the way to solve problems and create change. Well, not so much. We made some edits to this approach. So we first asked how do we know what we know about these underserved and underrepresented student groups. We then recognize that as we change as an institution, our students group change and their needs are also changing. So we asked, how can we identify and orient ourselves to ongoing change alongside our students? We then embarked and completed this by really coming up with really good questions, and then we talked to people and we observed our students. I can't tell you how much informational interviews I've done with undergraduate students, but also prospective students, asking about what we need to do to better transition them to higher education and to provide better access to them. We have a goal. Our goal was understanding how students make sense of us and what don't we know about them. So again, focusing on that sense-making process. How do students understand higher ed in Ontario, in Canada, and internationally? And what don't we know? We need to ask them questions. So let's push on. Let's continue to orient our approach. Student belonging and engagement has received increased attention in the context of an expanding and more diverse higher education student population. You are seeing this on the news, you're seeing this across the border, you are seeing this here at home, you're seeing this wherever you are. We have done a bit of a literature review, and we've found that research has highlighted 3 things matter to students when they choose their higher education institutions. First, the academic staff they work with. Second, the nature of their academic studies, so what they'll be studying, the quality of it. And lastly, the surprising one, their feelings of belonging. Keeping this in mind, we needed to take a step back and reevaluate what we really know about our diverse student population and what we actually do to support them. Summarized, we don't want students to survive here. We want them to thrive, and we don't want only to include them. We want them to feel like they belong on our campus. So let's push on. So one of the first things we did, again, in trying to, once we oriented our approach and embarking on our journey, was we looked at graduate students. We have some of the most incredible graduate students from our institution that have completed master's degrees and doctorate degrees. So we looked inwards at some of the remarkable academic talent within our institution. This took place via a review of published works and theses from graduate students. This is a culmination of their graduate work while studying. Research from our graduate students have indicated the need for tangible change that spans across departments, units, groups, and everywhere on campus to support the work outlined in our strategic framework to foster belongingness and to foster student success. Of note, some research highlights include sustaining an organizational culture of leading change to combat systemic inequalities, and the need to develop transition and access programs for students that would otherwise not really reach out and touch higher ed. We have also a focus on supporting student identities and identity development. As we push on, we then went backwards again. We talked to undergraduate students. We progressed to interviewing them, and we found out that access alongside detailed and directed information were themes that affected their feelings of belonging on campus. Furthermore, navigation, identity development showed up again. The need for responsive programs and resources affected their ability to succeed. So simply acclimating to university is not simple at all. It's actually a multifaceted process with a lot of different touch points on a student's journey within their undergraduate education. And then we went backwards again and we talked to prospective students. We deployed various workshops in high schools across the Peel region, our local region, and we asked them questions and we got them to learn by doing. Prospective students indicated navigating uncertainty within their perceptions of representations within institutions that they wanted to study. They had a hard time imagining themselves studying it at university. So we knew that's what we needed to focus on when engaging with prospective students. So in sum, we've been listening, but we knew that we needed to start strategic. So what did this look like? Well, the University of Toronto actually had a report from the Anti-Black Racism Task Force with a number of directives that were to be enacted across all of our campuses. So UTM, UTSC, and UT St. George, UTSG. Of these, we really want to focus on supporting students, sustaining their studies, sustaining the quality of their studies, sustaining our supports, but also increasing their feelings of belongingness on campus. So one of the first initiatives was created by Deborah Peart, and this was called Black Access to Educational Excellence, otherwise known as BAE. BAE is wholly concerned with your higher education decision-making process. We knew that these students wanted to feel seen. We knew that students wanted to feel heard. We knew that students really wanted an area where they felt safe enough to ask questions. So we embarked on deploying presentations and workshops to teach students about what it's like to study at University of Toronto, Mississauga, but also across what it's like to be at a university as a whole. We've also done a couple of events and provided mentorship opportunities to prospective students. And we partner with a number of different departments across campus for access events. So we're talking about tangible ways in which we bring students on campus to experience what it's like to study at the University of Toronto, Mississauga. Last year, we actually invited 200 students from the Peel District School Board to spend a day on campus to learn about what it is like to study at UTM. As we progress, we also launched another program called the STEM Scholars Program. The University of Toronto Mississauga STEM Scholars Program, a pathway for tomorrow's leaders, aims to increase diversity among future leaders in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, otherwise known as STEM. The scholarship is offered by the Vice Principal, Academic, and Dean, and facilitated by the Experiential Education Unit at the University of Toronto Mississauga. Again, talking about collaboration. The STEM Scholars Program provides students with a full tuition scholarship for 4 years of undergraduate study. So that means for the 4 years that you pursue your degrees here at UTM, all of your tuition is free. To get our students a head start on their first year, the program also offers a fully funded 6 to 8 week summer bridge program, where students will live on campus throughout July and August in our residences with fellow scholars doing summer courses and complete 2 courses for course credit, as well as participate in a variety of peer mentorship opportunities and workshops. Some of the other features of this program include paid summer internships, research opportunities, advanced tutorial assistance in the first year, and personal and academic mentorship alongside their studies. So, how do you apply? How do you qualify? What does it look like? In order to qualify for the STEM Scholars Program, students must apply to an admission category such as computer science, CPS, chemistry, physics, as life science, computer science, mathematics, and statistics. These are 3 admission categories that you will have to apply to before submitting an application to the STEM Scholars Program. Just as a correction, CPS is actually chemical and physical sciences. So the 3 categories, again, because it's important info for you that you need to apply to in order to qualify for this program, is the chemical and physical sciences, life sciences, computer science, mathematics, and statistics. Students must also have a commitment to pursue and follow a STEM-related undergraduate program with the intent to continue on to graduate school. Students must also self-identify as Black and have Canadian citizenship or permanent residency. Given the timing of when applications occur, grade 12 midterm marks and grade 11 marks will also be considered for the student's application. Here are the requirements for life sciences and computer science, mathematics, and statistics. As you can see, for life sciences, you need any 3 of the following grade 12 courses with a minimum of 85%. And for computer science, mathematics, and statistics, it's the same format. Any 3 of the following grade 12 courses with a minimum mark of 85% required in each courses. You can see at the bottom that there is an or indicator, meaning that you can take chemistry or physics when applying. You do not need both chemistry and physics. Okay, so grade 12 students can apply for the program or to the program by applying through UTM through the Ontario University's Application Center, again, to one of those 3 admission categories, and then completing the STEM Scholars MS Form application linked in the QR code on the screen right now. Please note that this application form is intended for high school students planning to begin their undergraduate studies at UTM in September. Selected applicants will participate in the Summer Bridge program from July to August, prior to the start of the academic year. If you have further questions about this, please don't hesitate to reach out to our office. And the deadline to submit your applications is Friday, March 29th, 2024. Okay, let's talk a little bit more about change. So when it comes to students, strategy, equity, and culture at the University of Toronto, Mississauga, you are going to see that on your screen, we have a number of different committees supporting this work within faculty departments. You also have a number of student groups and student clubs supporting this work, as well as a professional unit with an initiative, BAE, Black Access to Educational Excellence, supporting this work. We are really trying to embark on change by utilizing small pools of change. So when you think about organizational culture and change, let's think about small pools of culture with small whirlpools of change spread across our campus, all to accomplish one goal: to ensure that you feel like you belong here. Scratch that you know you belong here at UTM, and that you know that you will succeed here, and we are invested in you succeeding. So if you're ever having any thoughts about, will I fit in here? Are there people that will look like me, think like me, be like me? Will I make friends? We want to ensure that we can connect you to mentors, to resources, to folks on campus that will support you in your learning goals. So as we wrap up, as we look towards the future, recruitment and admissions will continue our multidisciplinary approach to equity, diversity, and inclusion. We will continue to develop reflexive and supportive programming for students. We will continue to expand programming to align with the University of Toronto strategic framework by embarking on collaborations with different departments and faculties on our campus to ensure that you're supported fully and wholly when you choose to come to the University of Toronto, Mississauga. So I end off by saying we are here to help. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. We are here for you. And as I bring my presentation down and prepare for the next one, I want to say thank you for listening to me. And thank you for listening for this long. I know that it's been a couple of videos and a couple of presenters. We love having you here. So here we go. I'm going to bring again Anita back to the stage. Hold on. In 3, 2, 1. Hi.
Hi.
How are you?
Good.
Good. Nice to see you. Okay, and I'm going to put your presentation on. All right. I'm leaving you in the safe hands of Anita. I'll be going backstage, back to friends. Anita, have a wonderful presentation. I'll see you on the other side.
See ya. So hi everybody, like Kwame said, my name is Anita. Just a quick little bit about me. I'm currently a second year student. I work in the Office of Student Recruitment and Admissions. Of course, that's how I'm here. And I also work on residence as a Don. That's my team in that bottom photo over there. But let's get into it. So like I said, this is the office that I work in and how it got me here. And I just wanted to touch really quickly on, as Lauren was saying, all the opportunities you can take on campus, one of them being work-study positions, and that's what I am. It gives you opportunities just to work around campus, get some opportunities, meet some really great people, and do some pretty cool things like this event. And then as everybody said many, many times, it's a very welcoming office, always happy to help, especially as you're looking at applying to the university. These are the people you're going to be interacting with, and some of my favorite people on campus, if I do say so myself. The second piece I just really want to quickly touch on is the Office of the Registrar. So once you're a current student, the support doesn't really stop there. The Office of the Registrar is there for you to help figure out your program, figure out what you want to do. Like Lauren was saying, you can change as much as you want, really. And they're really there to support you. Here are just a couple of the resources up on the screen. And then obviously they help you work towards graduation, as is seen in that top photo there. A third little bit is I did want to point to some of the other offices on campus. I'll get more into like the student stuff in a second. But these are some other offices on campus. That middle photo is actually one of my friends on residence. And as you saw in that break video, there's many different offices and spaces on campus that really are here to support you as a student, whether you're domestic, international, kind of in between for some people, if they're one for tuition and one based on their student status. But there really are a lot of supports to help you out on campus. So more into the student side. I think UTM has a really, really pretty gym and fitness area. I like to go, as you can see in that picture there, to do my studying at the gym, try to make it a really productive hour. But there's also different sports teams, as seen in those other two photos, both at the Mississauga campus, and there's opportunities that are tri-campus. So if you're really good at a sport and really don't want to give it up as you come somewhere new, it is definitely something you can explore and really take advantage of here. Also at UTM, we have a lot of fitness classes. I actually have a friend that runs a couple of them, and he loves it and he has so much fun doing it. So it's definitely a really great space on campus as well. Very positive, very safe. Again, a lot of the people that work there are some of my favorite people. More into the student side of it, though. These are some of the lecture halls and classrooms on campus. As everyone said, you're going to spend a lot of time in your classrooms, but I personally really love mine. I love some of the buildings on campus. I've chosen photos from my two favorite buildings, Montjoy and Demowinen, shorted to MN, and the Instructional Center, which is IB. And that middle bottom photo is one of our tech enhanced classrooms. I actually had a seminar class in here last year. It was one of the scholars classes, I believe it's called. It's UTM 1, where it's a smaller class, which you don't always get in first year. And ours was on misinformation in science. And so trying to figure out the best way to communicate scientific findings, how to skew out the, garbage stuff and real stuff as you're doing research and navigating, publishing your own work and things like that. So that was a really cool class. And the reason we did it in there is because, as you can see, each table has its own projector. And so it just made for a really interactive and pretty cool space to work in as a student. And then our lecture halls, I think, are just super pretty. Along with our lecture halls and classrooms, you're going to spend a lot of time in study spaces, of course. I spent a lot of time in my room on residence, of course, just because you happen to, and it's really convenient. But there are a lot of spaces around campus. Those top photos are all photos just I've taken throughout my 2 years here. So a couple of those are in the library. As I'm sure you can imagine, we spend a lot of time in the library as students. So there's a couple different spaces. There's that bottom floor, which is the first photo. It's a bunch of like group tables. So if you want to work in a group or you just want to sit with a couple friends, it's one of my favorite places to go. And then you can also book study rooms. And that's pretty much where I lived in my first year, was in these bookable study rooms, is those other 3 photos there. Because they have the whiteboard and you're still out of your room, you're somewhere outside, you're in a nice study space, but you can talk, you can have your own space to yourself. And the whiteboard, like I said, is just super helpful if you want to just get everything out there. And they were some of our favorite places to be. Some other spaces that some of my friends really love are those study pods, which are brand new, but they're pretty cool. You can modify like the lighting, they're soundproof. You can adjust the like seat height, and it really is just this like cool little unit to have to yourself on campus. I know a lot of commuter students really like them as well, because you don't always want to be surrounded by people all the time, but you got to be on campus. And so they're another cool space. They're kind of scattered around the campus, but they are pretty cool. And then that last space is just one of the other places. I really like how many windows are in a lot of our buildings. I believe that photo is in the Instructional Center as well. You can tell where my favorite buildings are pretty easily from the photos I choose. But yes, this is all to say there's a lot of space to study on campus. I don't really have one favorite place. I like to go all the way around, see different things, change it up a bit. But these are some of my absolute favorites. So as a small little note, before I transition into some of the more campus life, residence life, as you may have known, UTM is very well known for its nature, its wildlife. A lot of these photos I've actually taken myself. I believe there's 3 that I took just from online. But I think fall, obviously, is the most beautiful season on campus. It's got the pretty trees, but also like winter and spring can be really beautiful times outside of my allergies in the spring. But as you can see in that bottom right photo, I believe is from the spring. And then the other thing is that we've got our nature trail. That's where that picture of the bridge is from. I tend to go there a lot when it's not wet or rainy and it's muddy, but it actually goes over the Credit River, if you've heard of it. And so it really is just a beautiful, naturey spot to go check out, and it's accessible on campus. And you also may have heard about the UTM deer, which is, I have a photo in that top little bit. I'm convinced the deer absolutely adore me because they never run away from me, but they run away from my friends sometimes. And I have quite a few photos of them on my phone just from 2 years at the university. But this is just kind of getting me into talking about residence. So I lived on residence both last year and this year, and I honestly think it's what made my university experience what it has been. That isn't to say commuting isn't a good option. I know a lot of people who had other pros that came with commuting. This is just how I did mine my first year. But this little slide here, or this slide here, A is to show how the nature extends to residence. I have so many photos on my phone of these exact few spots from every season. Every day I walk by, I know I have a photo of it, but I will still take another one just because I think it's so pretty. The other thing I wanted to touch on quickly here is the different types of housing. So I think residence does a really good job at having spaces for anybody in any comfort level. So I lived both last year and this year in the apartment style, where I have my own bedroom, which is what I'm in. One, like a shared bathroom between two people, and living room and a kitchen that's shared, but it's like in my apartment rather than communal. There's also other buildings that are like dorm style. So you've got your own bedroom and then a shared bathroom, and then you don't have a kitchen, but there's a communal kitchen you can go to if you'd like. And some people really like that style of like no roommates at all. It's just for them. There are double rooms, there's townhouses, there's a lot more and a lot more details, and you can find all that information on the websites. But this is all again to say that there is space for everybody and a lot of different comfort levels in and around residence. And then aside from housing, we tend to separate residence life from residence housing in our jobs. They're just different departments, even though it's all incorporated in one. But like I said, residence really is what made my year what it was. I made my best friends on campus, as you can see from a lot of these photos. I also got really close with a lot of the exchange students on residence because they tend to live on campus, and meet some really cool people from around the world who have different experiences, different upbringings, and it really did. I just made my forever friends in residence. And then obviously now I work here, as I mentioned. That bottom right photo is me and one of my other friends. We won awards at our banquet after training, and that's just that photo there. But it's all just to say, as Lauren also mentioned, you're going to make your best friends on campus, whether it's commuting or as a resident student. And that was my experience here. On that note, a lot of people have a lot of questions about food. So the food plan pretty much works. I like to describe it as a gift card. So you kind of pay your installments on your meal plan and you tap it anywhere on campus and it kind of deducts from your meal plan. The nice part about it is that anything you pay with a meal plan is tax-free. And so it just saves you that extra little bit of money. If you're a resident student, you have to buy a meal plan, but you can also get one if you're not a resident student and you know you're going to be eating on campus. I put a little screenshot of our website, of the Food and Ancillary Services website here, because you can explore it yourself if you would like a couple more details. But there's a couple of different food, like we call them food courts, or like they aren't really like food halls, I would say, on our campus. They're kind of just in and around every building. But there's lots of options. My favorite is unfortunately the place with the least hours. So I always go as soon as I can. It's in the Deerfield Hall building. But there is always something you can get, something you're going to like on campus. So I would recommend checking out that website to see what you can find here. Also on that note, as I was talking about being a commuter versus a resident student, I do want to talk a little bit about transit and off-campus opportunities. So whether you are commuting or whether you're on residence, you're probably going to want to spend some time in and around the city. The top two pictures I have there are the main methods you can travel with being a UTM student. The first is MyWay. So as a student, in all your fees included is a MyWay pass. So you don't have to pay any additional or like per fare passes. And this is access to all of the Mississauga buses. So to get to the mall, to get to the grocery stores, to get to a restaurant, they're super convenient. And then that other bus I have there is the UTM shuttle. So also included in your fees is a shuttle to the downtown campus. And this pretty much is just, again, you don't have to pay per fare. We used to use it all the time just to get into the city. Like Lauren was saying, having access to the city, but also coming back to Mississauga was my favorite piece. I didn't really want to stay where it was super urban, but I did like getting to go sometimes. And the other photos I have are some of the main places we would go, which is Port Credit, the little area by the water, and Square One Shopping Center and Celebration Square, which has like movie nights, skating, etc. Lots of things like that. And those are the other two photos at the bottom there. There's lots and lots to do. These are just my two favorite things and things I see a lot of people doing most often. So I put them there, but definitely do some exploring and see what you can find. And as a final note, before I finish off, is a really off-campus opportunity, which is study abroad. And I'm just including this as a last little note because I actually just got into the course I apply to, which is at the Oxford University or University of Oxford. For a psychology course. And so you earn a full year credit in 3 to 4 weeks, which is pretty much the equivalent of like 2 classes, depending on what you're taking. And so this was just a small little, I haven't done it yet, but I will as a student, and it's another opportunity available to you. And so that ends off my piece of the presentation. As I'm sure you've seen many, many times, we have this website that's available to you if you ever want to explore any of the things any of us have really talked about throughout this presentation. But that's it from me, and I'll bring Kwame back for the Q&A.
Hello, Anita. Thank you for the awesome presentation. I always love the outdoor photos of the campus. It reminds me of what a beautiful place that we all work and study in. So I'm going to give everyone backstage a 3-second warning. You're coming back to the main stage. Prepare yourselves. Anita, thanks for being out here with me already. And here we go. Lauren, Felicia, Laura, Sarah, and Megan. So now we're going to be starting our Q&A section. We have about 12 minutes left in our stream. We have a number of questions to go through. I will project them on the screen and I will do my best to route them around the room. But before I start, is everyone okay? How are we all doing? Okay, nods, thumbs up. They know what I'm looking for, the thumbs up. Okay, first question. How do the UTM business programs differ from Rotman? Felicia.
Well, thanks, Kwame. So honestly, the only difference that you're going to notice is the location. Some professors will teach both at Mississauga as well as Rotman. So you aren't missing that piece. You're getting the same education, whether you go to Rotman Commerce or you come to Mississauga and you study commerce. And I'm not sure if anyone wants to add to that.
Yes, happy to add to that. Thank you so much, Felicia. You are very correct. The quality of education that you're going to receive will be the same because we are University of Toronto. When it comes to the programs offered at Rotman and offered at UTM, you'll notice that there are some key differences. So when it comes to Rotman, you can study, I believe, economics, accounting, you can study business, but at UTM, we do something special. Oh, at Rotman, you can also study management. At UTM, we do something special. We have broken our management programs away from our commerce programs. So both students will actually get a specific type of education. In the management programs, you're going to deal with learn about all the physical assets of the company and the best physical asset of the company, which are its people. When it comes to commerce, you're going to learn about all the non-physical assets of a large corporation. So we're talking accounting, we're talking economics, we're talking marketing. So those are some of the differences between what Rotman Commerce has to offer and what UTM has to offer. But Felicia is absolutely right. In terms of what you can study, it will largely be the same in terms of quality. You may notice that we do have human resources management offered at University of Toronto Mississauga, and that's not offered at Rotman. And you may also notice that we have on the commerce side marketing offered at University of Toronto Mississauga. So you get a very special experience coming to UTM, but you also get a special experience going to Rotman. So let's move on to the next question. Thank you so much, Felicia. The next one we have is more of a comment, and it says, something about the library is so amazing. And I see Laura nodding, and Laura hasn't had a chance to say anything. We all want to hear Laura's voice. Is there something that you like about the library specifically?
I love the library on campus. When I was a student, I spent a lot of time studying there. One of my favorite parts about the library is that it's 4 floors, and each floor has a different zone of quietness. So, if you need the absolute silence to study, you can go to that appropriate floor. Or, if you're interested in doing group studying with some of your friends, there's a floor for that too. Another part of our library that I love is the group study rooms. So that's really helpful for booking that and studying with your friends. And then something also fun about our library is that we have moving bookshelves. Yeah, I see Kwame perk up there. We have moving bookshelves, so that's always fun, and it makes researching that much more enjoyable.
Thank you so much, Laura. And we have a similar comment about the library, and I'm going to turn it into a question. I'm going to route it towards Sarah, because we talked about writing. So would you recommend going to the U of T library, Sarah, by any chance?
I would. Surprise, surprise. No, I think I will add to what Laura said about the library to plug the reference desk. So when you walk into the UTM library, straight ahead, there is a desk kind of just floating out in the middle. It's not the one where you go for circulation to actually get books and, borrow chargers and things. Reference just has a librarian sitting there during most hours of the day, and they are able to help you find resources, formulate research questions, put together search strings so that you understand how to use databases, all of which is central to the writing process. Several people have noted resources they wish they had used when they were an undergraduate. I 100% came way too late to understanding the value of making friends with a librarian. So yes, go to the library.
Perfect. Thank you both, Laura and Sarah, for your input about the library. Lovely. Okay, on to the next one. It is, which category would health sciences fall in, and which campus offers it? Megan, would you be willing to answer this one?
Absolutely. So health sciences here at U of T is called life sciences, and life sciences can be found across all 3 campuses. So a wide variety of programs under the life sciences admission category. And yeah, they can be found across all 3 campuses.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Megan. Appreciate you. And the next question is, do AP and IB courses count towards post? And you can guess who this is going to. Lauren, would you be able to help, please?
Yes, it depends. I know that is like a term that I'm going to use a lot, but it does. It depends on what transfer credits or advanced standing is awarded for those. I will put in the chat our websites for the high school and secondary transfer credit equivalencies. And in the chart, it actually indicates whether those AP, IB, there's also GCEs, CAPE results, all of those, whether they meet prerequisite requirements, whether they meet program entry requirements, and then program completion requirements. So the table is quite clear on how and when and where you can use each of those advanced standing transfer credits.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Lauren. I knew you were the right person to ask this question too. Next one is, would it be possible to transfer to computer science from another post-secondary institution? Felicia, may I request your help, please?
Of course. So unfortunately, we do not accept transfer students into the computer science program. Unfortunately, that's the only category we do not accept transfer students in at UTM.
Thank you very much, Felicia. Appreciate it. And Lauren, please.
I just want to add that is the same policy at all 3 campuses at the University of Toronto, which offer computer science. So that one's one that you'll want to do your research and come visit and apply. And when you get your offers, do your best to determine which campus and institution want to be at, because I think that that's fairly common for computer science.
Fantastic. Before we get to the average needed for admission to forensic science, hint, hint for those in the back, I will ask this question. If we do English in the summer, are the grades discounted? Lauren, could you please provide some insight?
As long as the website that I just put in got cut. I'll fix it. As long as it's accredited by your Ministry of Education governing body, we do not discount or reduce courses. I will say the one caveat is that it can't be in the summer before you start at UTM, because you will have had to meet all of your conditions by the end of your regular school year. But if you're doing it between grade 11 and grade 12, or grade 10 and grade 11, as long as it's accredited by the Ministry of Education, we'll take that for what your English grade is.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Lauren. And on to the next one. What average is needed to compete for admission to forensic science? Megan, may I please request your expertise?
Sure. For forensic science, we are looking for an approximate grade of mid to high 70s. And we're going to be looking for prerequisites in your biology and your advanced functions and chemistry as well, perhaps. So something to keep in mind.
Wonderful. Thank you. The next question, are there any scholarships in the University of Toronto that are based on volunteering? But I'm going to rephrase a little bit and ask Anita, because you are a current student, have you ever done a search for scholarships? Can you shed some light on what that process is like?
I have actually. I can't say that I've seen anything specifically about volunteering, just because that's not what I looked for. Not that I don't know it exists. I used the Award Explorer, which is, I believe it came up in the chat somewhere. But it's essentially a search engine for all scholarships that you can get at the university. I didn't know about it until pretty recently. Actually, when I started this job and started referring other students to it is when I found it. And so I try to tell as many people as possible now. But pretty much you can just filter through, like, I'm a domestic student, I'm in psychology, I'm a full-time student, et cetera, et cetera. I'm looking for academic merit. That's what I was looking for, is based on your grades. And then it pretty much just spews out everything that you could do. And then I clicked through it and saw, oh, I could do this, I have this, I could do this. And then you fill out what's called an awards profile. And that's it. That's all. And then you get considered, and then you get notified. And so if you're looking for anything specific, like volunteering or a program of interest or anything like that, I would say just poke around the Award Explorer website, because that's probably your best bet at finding something that's actually like what best fits your accomplishments, I think.
Wonderful. Thank you, Anita. As we wind down, we're going to do rapid fire. So the next one is life sciences average. Are you able to share some insight, Felicia?
Of course. So before I go into it, earlier we did put a link to our undergraduate admissions bulletin. In it, you're going to find in the blue boxes the suggested admission average. For the life sciences, for example, we're looking at low to mid 80s. And mostly biology, chemistry, and advanced functions are most of the requirements, but always keep an eye out for those because they're not the same for every single program. But that would be a great resource to look at. It has all the programs we offer across all 3 campuses at U of T, and it just gives you an idea of what to aim for. I always say, it doesn't hurt to aim higher, as it is just a suggested competitive average.
Wonderful. And we've hit time. So as we wrap up, I would love to lean on my colleagues from ISUP for some final words. Yeah, I know you covered it in your presentation already, but just in case for folks who just joined, Laura, Sarah, how can students best prepare for writing for university right now while they're in high school? Do you have any advice that you can give them? And I'm going to start with Sarah, please.
Sure. Wonderful question. Thanks, Kwame. I think that the best advice I can give is start to think about not only correctness with your writing. I know that's emphasized a great deal in high school, but also the social context that surrounds the writing that you're doing. Because, writing is a meaning-making tool. I know it might not feel that way right now, but it is not a mark-making tool. So recognizing that you are using this technology to respond to social situations, problems, and, communicate with people around you will go a long way toward making your writing more engaging and ideally make you more interested in actually producing writing.
Thank you, Sarah. Laura, final words.
I would just recommend that you seek out, and I guess this really applies to anything, seek out support where you need it and where it is available to you. This presentation tonight, you've heard about many of the resources that UTM offers. Close to ISEP, or the Institute for the Study of University Pedagogy, we have the Robert Gillespie Academic Skills Center, and you'll find very similar academic skill centers at other institutions as well. So definitely seek out support from writing instructors, numeracy instructors, the whole gamut. So definitely ask for help when you need it.
Perfect. Thank you, Laura. Okay, we're coming to an end. We're sad to say it's over. But before we go, we're going to say thank you for spending your time with us. Thank you for sharing space with us. We look forward to connecting with you after this webinar, after this presentation, and we want to get to know you. So please don't hesitate to reach out. My deepest and our deepest apologies for not getting to all the questions tonight, but call anyways, ask them anyways. We really want to help out. So don't think that we didn't want to answer your questions. We just ran out of time, and there'll be another, maybe Mapping Your Education. There are other Ask a Recruiters. You will see us around. So please continue to connect with us. A big thank you to all of my friends, all of the guests, everyone here. And I'm never good at saying goodbye, so we're going to say see you later, and we're going to play the outro. Reach out to us. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Goodbye, everyone.